complicated feelings for her brother Erwin, who suffers from hydrocephalus. On the other hand, Erwin's love for Harriet is not conflicted at all, but Erwin himself must untangle the web of the human heart. Here is what our judges had to say about this book. Driven by the wry and wrenching voice of 11-year-old Harriet, Cordelia Strube's On the Shores of Darkness There Is Light pitches us full tilt into the heart of human relationships. In spite of hapless adults failing her on every front, Harriet charts her own course with the materials at hand. Like her scavenger art projects, her sensibility manifests the collision of absurdity, pain, and resilience in her own family portrait. This singularly moving novel faces both the depths and the heights without flinching. Please welcome Cordelia Strube to the stage to read her.
So I just have a paragraph to read here, so nice to see you all here. I really wasn't aware, I have to confess, I wasn't aware that I was writing a novel evocative of Toronto. I was just trying to write a good story, so that's interesting. Okay, so Harriet is 11, and she's an artist, and I really wanted to give the reader some idea of her artwork, but I've been pushing this book since the spring, and I've talked to a lot of readers. And what's been really fun for me is discovering that each reader visualizes Harriet's art completely differently. So I wanted it to live in the imagination of the readers, bring your own experience too, which is what novel writing is all about, bring your experience to what I put on the page. So here's how I tried to describe her artwork, but I never actually described her artwork in the novel. I really want you to picture her artwork. Remember, this is an 11-year-old trying to figure life out. Harriet has always painted with loose, underhand strokes starting from shadow, which makes rendering talons and beaks challenging. At school, Yannick Picard draws with a tight grip and gets A+ from Mrs. Elrine for his artwork because he starts with a recognizable outline of his subject, then fills it in. Yannick Picard, in Harriet's opinion, isn't actually seeing what he's drawing, just drawing what he thinks he's seeing. In the same way people decide they're looking at a house because they are familiar with things that look more or less like houses. This is what enables people like Yannick Picard and Mrs. Elrine to say that a particular house they are looking at is a big house, an ugly house, an old house. But when Harriet paints and draws, she has no conditioned responses to her subjects and begins with the shapes she actually sees. She observes how light interrupts her subjects and curves into shadows. Sometimes the shadows look like hamsters or the African continent or a sleeping cat without a tail. She stays focused on each shape, one after the other, until the subject emerges from the shadows. It seems to her people rarely understand shadows. They forget that they are part of the light. She has always drawn this way, upsetting Mrs. Elrine, who gives her C-. Thank you.